In the earliest months of his training in lightsaber combat, the Sith Lord Dooku couldn't have been more pleased with Grievous's abilities. From this early perspective of Dooku, Grievous was a relatively easy apprentice, as the Separatist general didn't hesitate in utilizing his anger and rage in combat, something he had to continuously remind the others who he trained during the Clone War. As Dooku recognized almost immediately when introduced to the reconstructed Grievous, he was practically nothing but rage and fury, which together with his combat skills and cybernetics would make very few Jedi capable of defeating him. In fact, Dooku understood that in some ways there were moments during their sparring sessions where even he found difficulty in overcoming Grievous, ultimately deciding not to share all of his knowledge and techniques so he wouldn't one day be defeated. However, for all of the praise Dooku would give Grievous for his lightsaber abilities, there was still a moment very late in the Clone War, just prior to the Battle of Coruscant, where Dooku was able to understand that Grievous had significant weaknesses in his lightsaber combat form and abilities. Even more important for our video here, he was able to predict that Grievous was quote hopeless and really wasn't likely to defeat the most powerful Jedi Masters in lightsaber combat regardless of his skills, naming Yoda, Mace Windu, Sindralig, and Obi-Wan Kenobi specifically. The first three need little explanation, as Yoda and Mace were widely recognized as the two most powerful lightsaber duelists of their era, and Sindralig held the position of Jedi Battlemaster, making him one of the leading lightsaber instructors within the Order. In fact, even Grievous would come to understand why Dooku warned him about Mace Windu's lightsaber skills during his capture of Palpatine, as seen within the novel Labyrinth of Evil, where Grievous was barely able to escape his duel with the Jedi Master. Dooku's mention of Obi-Wan Kenobi is much more interesting, and will be the focus of our video, given that he was the Jedi who would end up defeating Grievous, with Dooku correctly naming Obi-Wan as a Jedi who Grievous would have tremendous difficulty against. But another interesting aspect is that Dooku didn't truly understand how powerful Obi-Wan was in Legends as a Form 3 duelist until their duel during the Battle of Coruscant. Of course, as revealed in the Episode 3 novelization, Obi-Wan would be considered to be the Jedi who would have the best chance against Grievous by Mace. The Jedi Master saw the simplicity of Obi-Wan's defensive Form 3 as providing him with a significant advantage, with few weaknesses for Grievous to utilize. But again, I'm not sure that Dooku understood all of these aspects the same way that Mace did, despite Dooku's understanding that Obi-Wan was a great lightsaber duelist. Instead, I believe Dooku's prediction that Grievous would have difficulty against Obi-Wan and likely couldn't defeat him in lightsaber combat was based on what he knew about Grievous's lightsaber abilities and actions at the end of the Clone War. For all of the initial confidence Dooku had with Grievous's reliance on anger and rage, he would ultimately come to see this as a significant weakness in Grievous's lightsaber abilities. In one of their final training sessions, just prior to the Battle of Coruscant, Dooku understood that although Grievous had been taught well and knew all 7 of the classic forms of lightsaber combat, Grievous was not invincible. This was because Dooku recognized Grievous was far too reliant on power moves, where his complete dependence upon his fury in combat left him vulnerable to more skilled duelists. Even more, Dooku saw that Grievous had no understanding of finesse, where merely attempting to overpower one's opponent through a memorization of the lightsaber combat forms and techniques was easily countered. For Dooku, while power moves could be used to great effect against less skilled opponents, like Grievous did against the Jedi he initially dueled on Hypori, this wouldn't work against the powerful duelists Dooku referred to specifically, including Obi-Wan. Ultimately, Dooku viewed Grievous's lightsaber combat abilities as completely lacking any incorporation of finesse, artfulness, and economy. While Dooku would attempt to warn Grievous of these mistakes and try to teach him the importance of these aspects, although Grievous explained that he understood, Dooku was still confident it was too late for Grievous, likely knowing the Separatist general would only continue to utilize power moves in combat based upon his rage. And Dooku didn't hesitate to admit that he had to accept some of the blame for Grievous's weaknesses in lightsaber combat. He recognized that he mistakenly promoted Grievous to be consumed by too much rage in combat, a mistake that he also made with Asajj Ventress, and which Darth Sidious revealed he also made with Darth Maul. In the end, Dooku's prediction was exactly correct. As seen in Episode 3, and perfectly described within the novelization, when Grievous and Obi-Wan confronted each other in lightsaber combat, Grievous was described as a storm of annihilating energy, relying only on his fury and power moves, failing to implement finesse or artfulness as Dooku tried to teach him before the Battle of Coruscant. In the end, just as Mace was confident of, this was enough for Obi-Wan to defeat Grievous. So there we have it, why Dooku was able to understand that Grievous couldn't defeat Obi-Wan in lightsaber combat. Thank you very much to all of the Patreon members of Star Wars Reading Club, as your support is so greatly appreciated. You can find all of our social media links and a link to our Star Wars gaming channel in the description below for updates and even more Star Wars content. We love making these videos, so why not subscribe for more fun Star Wars theories and discussions. Also, if you enjoyed the video, think about giving a like or leaving a comment. If not for me, for artfulness.